It was a quiet Tuesday evening when the world changed forever. People went about their lives as usual. Some were stuck in traffic, others were finishing up work emails, and kids played outside without a care in the universe. No one suspected that within hours humanity would be thrust into an event so monumental it would redefine history itself. The first sign of trouble came just after sunset. A strange shimmer appeared in the sky above New York City. At first, people thought it was nothing more than a trick of the light or perhaps an optical illusion caused by pollution. But as minutes passed, the shimmer grew brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat against the darkening horizon. Phones began buzzing with notifications from weather apps warning of unusual atmospheric activity. Curious onlookers gathered on rooftops and streets, pointing upward as cameras flashed and videos streamed live across social media platforms. In Manhattan, Sarah Thompson stood frozen on her apartment balcony, staring at the glowing anomaly. She'd always been fascinated by science fiction movies but never imagined she'd witness something straight out of one. Her heart raced as she noticed tiny pinpricks of light moving rapidly inside the shimmer. They darted back and forth erratically, almost like fireflies, but they were far too high up to be insects. "What is that?" muttered Jake, her younger brother who had joined her on the balcony. His voice trembled slightly, betraying his fear despite his attempt to sound brave. "I don't know," Sarah replied softly, unable to tear her gaze away. "But I think we're about to find out." Suddenly, there was a deafening crack, a sound so loud it shook buildings and sent birds scattering into the night. The shimmer exploded outward, splitting the sky wide open. For a brief moment, everything went silent. Then, slowly, massive shapes began emerging through the rift. At first glance, they looked like enormous ships, far larger than anything humans could build. Their sleek metallic surfaces gleamed under the faint glow of Earth's moonlight, reflecting hues of silver and blue. These weren't ordinary vessels. They were colossal machines designed for war. Star destroyers, some whispered. Later, though, no one knew exactly what to call them yet. Each ship stretched miles long, bristling with weapons and glowing energy cores that pulsed ominously. Panic erupted almost instantly. People screamed, running for cover as if expecting an attack. Emergency sirens blared throughout the city, adding to the chaos. Social media feeds flooded with theories ranging from government experiments gone wrong to alien invasions. Yet amidst all the confusion, one thing became painfully clear. Whatever these ships were, they didn't belong to Earth. Sarah clutched Jake's arm tightly, pulling him back inside. "We need to get downstairs," she shouted over the growing din outside. "But where are we supposed to go?" Jake asked, his voice cracking. "I don't know," Sarah snapped, her own fear bubbling over. "Just move." As they hurried toward the stairwell, Sarah glanced back one last time. Through the gap in the curtains, she saw another ship emerge from the rift. This one was different. It hovered closer to the ground, its underside lined with rows of glowing panels that bathed the city in an eerie green light. It felt alive somehow, watching, waiting. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away in London, Dr. Emily Carter sat glued to her computer screen. As an astrophysicist working for NASA, she had access to real-time satellite data streaming directly from space telescopes. What she saw made her blood run cold. "Impossible," she murmured, leaning closer to the monitor. According to the readings, the rift wasn't just localized over New York, it spanned nearly half the planet. And the objects emerging from it, they defied every known law of physics. Her phone rang, jolting her out of her thoughts. It was her colleague, Mark, calling from Houston. "Emily, have you seen this?" he demanded, skipping any formalities. "Yes," she replied breathlessly. "What do you make of it?" "I don't know what to make of it," Mark admitted. "But whatever it is, it's not natural. We've got multiple reports coming in from other countries too. Japan, India, Brazil, everywhere. The entire globe is affected." Emily frowned, her mind racing. If these ships belonged to extraterrestrial beings, as most evidence suggested, then why had they chosen now to reveal themselves? And more importantly, what did they want? Back in New York, Sarah and Jake finally reached the lobby of their building. Dozens of terrified residents huddled together, whispering frantically among themselves. Some tried calling loved ones, only to discover that cell networks were overloaded. Others debated whether staying indoors offered any real protection against whatever might come next. Outside, the air grew heavier, charged with static electricity. Lights flickered sporadically, casting shadows that danced unnaturally along walls. Then, without warning, a beam of pure white light shot down from one of the hovering ships. It struck Central Park with such force that the ground shook violently. Sarah gasped, grabbing onto a nearby pillar for support. When the dust settled moments later, she peered cautiously out the window. In the middle of the park stood something, or someone, that hadn't been there before. It was tall, easily twice the height of a human, with elongated limbs and a smooth, featureless face. Its body shimmered faintly, as though composed of liquid, metal. Around it, smaller figures scurried about, setting up strange devices that emitted low hums. "They're here," Jake whispered hoarsely, clutching Sarah's hand. She nodded, swallowing hard. Whatever these creatures were, they weren't friendly tourists. They had arrived uninvited, tearing apart the fabric of reality to reach Earth. And judging by the sheer size and firepower of their fleet, resistance seemed futile. Yet even as terror gripped the hearts of millions worldwide, questions lingered unanswered. Who were these beings? Why had they come? And how would humanity respond to visitors from beyond the stars? For now, all anyone could do was wait and hope. By midnight, the entire planet was awake. News of the alien arrival spread faster than wildfire, fueled by live broadcasts, social media posts, and eyewitness accounts from every corner of the globe. Governments scrambled to address the crisis, but no one had answers, only questions that multiplied with each passing hour. In New York City, the towering alien figure in Central Park remained motionless, its shimmering form casting an otherworldly glow over the surrounding trees. Smaller drones buzzed around it like worker bees, setting up intricate devices that emitted faint hums and occasional bursts of light. Despite their apparent activity, the aliens made no immediate move to communicate or attack. Their silence was deafening, leaving humanity suspended in a state of collective dread. Sarah and Jake huddled together on the couch in their apartment, glued to the TV screen as reporters provided frantic updates. Every channel showed similar scenes. Massive ships hovering above major cities, panicked crowds flooding streets, and military forces mobilizing at unprecedented speeds. The United Nations convened an emergency meeting, while world leaders issued statements urging calm, a request that fell flat given the sheer scale of the situation. "They're not doing anything," Jake muttered, his voice tinged with both relief and frustration. "Why aren't they attacking or talking?" Sarah shook her head. "Maybe they're studying us first. Like, observing." "Observing for what?" Jake shot back. "To decide if we're worth keeping alive?" Before Sarah could respond, the broadcast cut to a live feed from London. Dr. Emily Carter appeared on screen, flanked by officials from NASA and the European Space Agency. Her face was pale but composed, her eyes sharp behind thick-rimmed glasses. "Are dealing with technology far beyond our understanding," she explained, addressing reporters. "These ships and their occupants are unlike anything humanity has ever encountered. While we cannot confirm their intentions yet, we urge global cooperation in monitoring their movements and attempting communication." Her words offered little comfort. People wanted action, not vague assurances. Protests erupted outside government buildings worldwide, demanding answers and protection. Conspiracy theories ran rampant online, claiming everything from secret government collusion to divine judgment. Meanwhile, religious leaders called for prayer vigils, framing the event as either a sign of hope or impending doom depending on interpretation. As dawn approached, the military presence around Central Park intensified. Armored vehicles lined the streets, and soldiers armed with heavy weaponry formed a perimeter several blocks wide. Helicopters circled overhead, their rotors slicing through the tense morning air. Yet despite the show of force, the aliens paid no attention. They continued their methodical work, seemingly oblivious or indifferent to human attempts at intimidation. Across the Atlantic in Washington, D.C., President Laura Hayes addressed the nation from the Oval Office. Her tone was measured but firm, projecting strength even as uncertainty loomed large. To the people of Earth, she began, we stand united in this moment of unparalleled challenge. Our scientists, military personnel, and diplomats are working tirelessly to understand the nature of these visitors and determine their purpose here. Let me be clear. We will defend our planet with every resource at our disposal, but we must also approach this situation with caution and restraint. Her speech ended with a call for unity, a plea for nations to set aside differences and focus on the shared threat facing humanity. It was a noble sentiment, but skepticism lingered. Could humanity truly unite under such extraordinary circumstances? History suggested otherwise, yet the stakes had never been higher. Back in New York, Sarah decided to venture outside despite the danger. She couldn't shake the feeling that staying cooped up indoors would drive her mad. Grabbing a jacket and flashlight, she stepped onto the eerily quiet street. Stores were shuttered, and abandoned cars littered the road. The usual hum of city life had vanished, replaced by an unsettling stillness broken only by distant sirens. Jake begged her not to go, but Sarah insisted. I just need some fresh air, she said. Besides, maybe I can see something useful. She kept her distance from the park, knowing better than to get too close. Soldiers patrolled the area, their faces grim beneath helmets. Occasionally, they shouted warnings at curious onlookers who ventured too near the alien encampment. Sarah hung back, watching from afar as the metallic figure in the park raised one elongated arm toward the sky. A beam of light shot upward, connecting with one of the massive ships hovering above. What are they doing? She whispered to herself, clutching her flashlight tightly. Nearby, a man holding a camera muttered angrily, They're mocking us, that's what they're doing. Showing off their power like we're nothing. Sarah didn't respond. Instead, she turned her gaze skyward, where the fleet of alien vessels continued to dominate the horizon. Each ship was a masterpiece of engineering, sleek and menacing, bristling with weapons that could annihilate entire cities without effort. Yet for all their might, they remained passive, for now. Hours passed, and the pattern repeated itself. Reports poured in from other continents detailing similar scenarios. In Tokyo, a second alien figure had emerged from a glowing portal, accompanied by smaller drones. In Rio de Janeiro, a third appeared near Christ the Redeemer, drawing gasps of awe and terror from onlookers. Everywhere, the same eerie calm prevailed. Dr. Carter and her team worked around the clock, analyzing data gathered from satellites and ground-based sensors. They discovered that the rift in the sky wasn't closing. Instead, it seemed stable, almost permanent. This revelation sent shockwaves through the scientific community. If the rift remained open indefinitely, what would that mean for Earth? Would more ships arrive? And how long before the aliens revealed their true intentions? Meanwhile, tensions between nations began to rise. Some countries accused others of withholding information about prior contact with extraterrestrials. Military alliances grew strained as governments debated whether to adopt a defensive posture or launch preemptive strikes against the invaders. The risk of miscalculation loomed large, threatening to escalate the situation into outright conflict. Central Park. The alien figure finally moved again. Slowly, deliberately, it turned its featureless face toward the assembled humans. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Then a low hum filled the air, resonating deep within everyone's chest. Words, though not spoken aloud, formed in their minds. We come not as conquerors, but as watchers, the voice intoned. Your species teeters on the brink of self-destruction. We are here to assess your worthiness to continue existing. The "oh" message stunned the crowd into silence. Soldiers lowered their weapons instinctively, unsure how to react. Around the world, billions listened as the transmission echoed across every frequency imaginable. There was no denying it now. The aliens had spoken directly to humanity. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Worthiness? What did that mean? How would they judge humanity? And what fate awaited those deemed unworthy? For the first time since, the sky had split open, fear gave way to determination. Whatever happened next, humanity would have to face it together, or perish trying. The alien's voice lingered in the minds of everyone who heard it, a haunting echo that refused to fade. "We come not as conquerors, but as watchers," it had said. "Your species teeters on the brink of self-destruction. We are here to assess your worthiness to continue existing." These words sparked wildly different reactions across the globe. Some people interpreted them as a chance for redemption, a test humanity could pass if they worked together. Others saw them as a death sentence, believing the aliens would judge them harshly and wipe out the human race without hesitation. Panic gave way to chaos as protests turned violent. Riots erupted in major cities and looting became rampant. Governments struggled to maintain order, issuing curfews and deploying troops to quell unrest. In New York City, Sarah and Jake sat, glued to their phones, scrolling through endless streams of updates and videos. Social media buzzed with theories about what the aliens meant by worthiness. Some argued it referred to humanity's technological advancements. Others believed it was tied to morality or compassion. Meanwhile, conspiracy theorists claimed the aliens were using psychological warfare to destabilize society before launching an attack. "They're playing games with us," Jake muttered darkly, tossing his phone onto the coffee table. "Why? Don't they just say what they want?" Sarah sighed, rubbing her temples. She felt drained, not just physically but emotionally. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on her chest like a heavy stone. "Maybe they're testing how we handle fear," she suggested. "If we panic and turn on each other, does that make us unworthy?" Jake didn't respond. Instead, he stared at the floor, his jaw clenched tightly. Outside, the streets remained eerily quiet except for the occasional wail of sirens. The military presence around Central Park had grown even stronger, with tanks rolling into position and fighter jets patrolling the skies. Yet the aliens showed no signs of aggression. They simply stood, or floated, where they were, watching silently. Meanwhile, in London, Dr. Emily Carter led a team of scientists tasked with deciphering the aliens' technology. Using advanced spectroscopy and quantum analysis tools, they studied the energy signatures emitted by the devices set up in Central Park. What they found baffled them. The machines operated on principles completely foreign to human science. Energy flowed through them in ways that defied logic, appearing to warp space and time itself. "This isn't just observation equipment," Emily told her colleagues during a late-night briefing. "It's something else, something we can't fully comprehend yet." Her assistant, Mark, frowned. "You think it's some kind of weapon?" "I'm not sure," Emily admitted. "But whatever it is, it's powerful, and if they decide to use it against us..." She trailed off, unwilling to finish the thought. Back in New York, Sarah decided to take matters into her own hands. Unable to sit idly while the world unraveled around her, she joined a group of volunteers distributing food and supplies to those in need. Grocery stores had been ransacked, leaving many families without access to basic necessities. Armed with backpacks filled with canned goods and bottled water, Sarah and her fellow volunteers braved the deserted streets, knocking on doors and offering help wherever possible. At first, Jake refused to join her, insisting it was too dangerous. But after Hugh, seeing the gratitude in people's eyes when they received aid, he eventually relented. Together, they ventured deeper into neighborhoods abandoned by authorities, delivering essentials to elderly residents trapped in their homes and comforting frightened children. One afternoon, as they unloaded supplies near a community center, Sarah noticed a crowd gathering nearby. Curious, she approached cautiously and saw a man standing on a makeshift platform, addressing the audience passionately. "We've spent centuries destroying our planet," he shouted, his voice hoarse but commanding. "Polluting the air, poisoning the oceans, killing off entire species. Is this the legacy we want to leave behind? If these visitors are judging us, then let's show them we're capable of change." His words resonated deeply with the crowd. Cheers erupted as people pledged to clean up their surroundings, plant trees, and reduce waste. Inspired, Sarah and Jake joined the effort, spending hours collecting trash and organizing recycling drives. For the first time since the aliens arrived, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe humanity still had a chance, if they proved they could, learn from their mistakes. Elsewhere, tensions between nations escalated dangerously. In Moscow, President Ivanov accused Western powers of collaborating secretly with the aliens, citing unverified reports of UFO sightings over NATO bases. His accusation sparked outrage among allied countries, leading to heated exchanges at the United Nations. Diplomatic relations frayed further when China launched a satellite armed with experimental EMP technology, ostensibly to disable alien communications. The move backfired spectacularly when the satellite malfunctioned and exploded, temporarily disabling GPS systems worldwide. Amidst the geopolitical turmoil, ordinary citizens began organizing grassroots movements aimed at fostering unity. Artists painted murals depicting humans and aliens coexisting peacefully. Musicians composed songs calling for global solidarity. Religious leaders preached messages of forgiveness and reconciliation, urging followers to embrace love over fear. In Central Park, the alien figure remained motionless, its glowing form casting long shadows as dusk approached. Soldiers maintained their positions, weapons trained on the mysterious visitor. Reporters camped out nearby, broadcasting live updates to millions of viewers. Then, just as night fell, the ground beneath the park trembled slightly. A low hum filled the air, growing louder by the second. The alien raised both arms skyward, and beams of light shot upward once again, connecting with the massive ships hovering above. This time, however, something new happened. The rift in the sky expanded rapidly, revealing more ships waiting beyond the breach. People gasped collectively as the newcomers emerged, descending slowly toward Earth. Unlike the first wave of vessels, these ships were smaller and sleeker, resembling scout crafts. They dispersed across the city, landing in various locations, from rooftops to abandoned lots. From each craft stepped multiple figures, humanoid in shape but clearly non-human. Their bodies shimmered faintly, and their movements were fluid, almost hypnotic. "What are they doing now?" Jake whispered, gripping Sarah's arm tightly. Before she could answer, one of the figures turned its featureless face toward them. It raised a hand, gesturing for them to approach. Sarah hesitated, her heart pounding. "Do you think it wants to talk to us?" "I don't know," Jake replied nervously. "But I'm not moving unless you do." Summoning every ounce of courage, Sarah took a step forward, then another. Slowly, she walked toward the alien, keeping her hands visible to show she meant no harm. Behind her, Jake followed reluctantly, his breath coming in shallow gasps. When they were within 10 feet of the figure, it stopped moving. A soft hum resonated in their minds, forming words without sound. "You represent your species well," it said. Bravery in the face of fear, compassion amid chaos, these are qualities worth preserving. Sarah blinked, stunned. "Does that mean we passed your test?" The alien tilted its head slightly, as though considering her question. "The assessment is ongoing, but your actions give us hope." With that, the figure turned and boarded its ship, which ascended gracefully into the sky. Other vessels followed suit, disappearing into the rift moments later. As quickly as they had come, the aliens were gone. For several minutes, Sarah and Jake stood frozen, staring at the empty patch of sky where the rift had been. Then slowly, reality sank in. "They left," Jake murmured, his voice trembling. "They actually left." Sarah nodded, tears streaming down her face. Whether humanity had truly earned a reprieve remained unclear, but for now the world was safe. The aliens' departure left Earth in a state of stunned silence. For days, people wandered through their lives like ghosts, unsure how to process what had just happened. Had humanity truly been spared? Or was this merely a temporary reprieve, before the next chapter of the alien agenda unfolded? The rift in the sky had closed as suddenly as it had opened, leaving behind no trace of its existence, except for the memories etched into the minds of billions. In New York City, Sarah and Jake returned home after their surreal encounter with the alien figure. They collapsed onto the couch, exhausted but unable to sleep. Their apartment felt smaller somehow, the walls closing in around them despite the vastness of the questions swirling in their heads. "What do you think they meant by 'the assessment is ongoing'?" Jake asked finally, breaking the heavy silence. Sarah shook her head, staring at her hands. "I don't know, but I think it means we're being watched even now." Her words sent a shiver down Jake's spine. He glanced toward the window, half expecting to see one of the shimmering figures hovering outside. When he saw nothing but the darkened skyline, he let out a shaky breath. Across the globe, reactions varied wildly. Some celebrated the aliens' departure as proof that humanity had passed their mysterious test. Others weren't so optimistic. Conspiracy theorists claimed the aliens were simply regrouping, planning their next move. Religious leaders interpreted the event as divine intervention, a second chance for humanity to mend its ways. Meanwhile, governments scrambled to make sense of the situation, holding emergency meetings and launching investigations into every aspect of the alien visitation. Dr. Emily Carter found herself at the center of the storm. Her expertise made her a key figure in analyzing the data collected during the aliens' brief stay on Earth. Every military agency, scientific organization, and intelligence service wanted answers, and fast. They left behind residual energy, signatures, Emily explained during a press conference held at NASA headquarters. "Our initial findings suggest these signatures may still be influencing certain areas where the ships landed. We're working to determine whether this poses any risk or opportunity for us." Her cautious tone did little to reassure the public. People demanded concrete answers, not vague possibilities. Protests erupted outside government buildings, worldwide, with demonstrators chanting slogans like "Tell us the truth" and "We deserve to know." In Central Park, cleanup crews worked tirelessly to restore order. The alien devices had vanished along with their creators, leaving behind scorched patches of earth and strange symbols etched into the ground. Scientists swarmed the area, collecting samples and running tests, but so far, no definitive conclusions had emerged. Back in New York, Sarah decided to visit the park herself. She needed to see it with her own eyes, to stand where the alien figure had stood and feel whatever lingering presence might remain. When she arrived, she was surprised to find a small crowd gathered near the site. Some held candles while others placed flowers and handwritten notes on the ground. It was an impromptu memorial, a tribute to the moment when humanity's fate had hung precariously in the balance. Sarah knelt beside one of the notes, reading its message aloud softly. "Thank you for giving us another chance." Tears welled up in her eyes as she realized how much hope people had clung to in the wake of such uncertainty. Despite everything, the fear, the chaos, the division, there was still a spark of optimism burning within humanity. As she stood there, lost in thought, a familiar voice called her name. Turning, she saw Dr. Carter approaching, flanked by two assistants carrying equipment cases. "Sarah?" Emily asked, her brow furrowed in recognition. "Weren't you the one who encountered one of the figures directly?" Sarah nodded hesitantly. "Yeah, me and my brother." Emily smiled warmly. "Your courage didn't go unnoticed. In fact, we'd like to speak with you further if you're willing. Your perspective could provide valuable insights into understanding their intentions." For a moment, Sarah hesitated. She wasn't sure she wanted to relive the experience, let alone dissect it under scientific scrutiny. But then she remembered the alien's words. Bravery in the face of fear. Compassion amid chaos. If humanity truly had another chance, shouldn't she do her part to help ensure it didn't squander it? "I'll help however I can," she said firmly. Over the next few weeks, Sarah became an unofficial liaison between scientists, government officials, and civilians affected by the alien visitation. Her first-hand account provided crucial details about the aliens' behavior and communication methods, helping researchers piece together fragments of their technology and motives. Meanwhile, global efforts to unite humanity gained momentum. Inspired by grassroots movements sparked during the crisis, world leaders signed historic agreements aimed at addressing climate change, poverty, and inequality. Massive reforestation projects launched in deforested regions, and renewable energy. Initiatives received unprecedented funding. Artists, musicians, and activists collaborated on campaigns promoting peace and cooperation, urging people to embrace the lessons learned from the aliens' cryptic message. But not everyone shared this vision of unity. In some corners of the world, fear and mistrust simmered beneath the surface. Extremist groups exploited the chaos, spreading propaganda that framed the aliens as harbingers of doom. They accused governments of hiding secrets and called for armed resistance against any future extraterrestrial contact. Clashes broke out sporadically, threatening to undermine the fragile progress humanity had made. Jake, who had initially dismissed the aliens as hostile invaders, began volunteering with local outreach programs aimed at bridging divides within communities. He worked alongside Sarah, distributing food and supplies to marginalized groups and organizing workshops focused on conflict resolution. Though skeptical at first, he soon discovered a sense of purpose in helping others heal from the trauma of recent events. One evening, as they sat together on the rooftop of their building, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, Jake turned to Sarah. "Do you think we'll ever see them again?" he asked quietly. Sarah paused, considering his question. "Probably. Whether it's tomorrow or 100 years from now, they'll come back. And when they do, we need to be ready." Jake nodded, gazing out at the horizon. "Then I guess we'd better keep trying, huh?" Sarah smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Yeah, we'd better." Unbeknownst to them, high above the atmosphere, one of the alien ships lingered silently in orbit. Its crew monitored Earth closely, observing the changes taking place below. Though invisible to human eyes, their presence served as both a reminder and a promise. Humanity's story was far from over. Months passed and life on Earth began to resemble something close to normalcy again. The initial shock of the alien visitation had faded, replaced by a cautious optimism that humanity could rise to meet whatever challenges lay ahead. But beneath the surface, tensions simmered. Governments debated how best to prepare for another encounter, while scientists raced against time to decode the lingering energy signatures left behind in Central Park and other locations around the globe. In New York City, Sarah Thompson threw herself into her new role as an advocate for global unity. She traveled extensively, speaking at conferences, schools, and community events about the importance of compassion, cooperation, and environmental stewardship. Her story, of standing face-to-face with one of the aliens, had become legendary, inspiring countless others to take action in their own lives. Jake, too, found purpose in the aftermath of the crisis. He joined a non-profit organization focused on conflict resolution, working tirelessly to bridge divides within communities torn apart by fear and mistrust. Together, he and Sarah became symbols of resilience, embodying the hope that humanity could change for the better if given the chance. But not everyone shared their optimism. In remote corners of the world, extremist groups continued to spread fear and paranoia, framing the alien visitation as a harbinger of doom. They claimed the rift in the sky would reopen sooner or later, and when it did, humanity would face annihilation unless drastic measures were taken. These groups amassed weapons, recruited followers, and plotted attacks on perceived enemies, both human and extraterrestrial. One such group, known as the Iron Veil, gained notoriety after orchestrating a series of bombings targeting research facilities studying alien technology. Their leader, a charismatic but ruthless man named Victor Kane, preached a message of survival through isolationism. "We cannot trust outsiders," he declared during a fiery speech broadcast online. "Not humans, and certainly not aliens. If we want to survive, we must rely only on ourselves." His words resonated with many disillusioned individuals who felt abandoned by governments they believed prioritized diplomacy over safety. Protests erupted outside military bases and scientific institutions, demanding stricter security measures and transparency regarding alien-related activities. Dr. Emily Carter faced mounting pressure from all sides. As head of the global task force analyzing the aliens' technology, she walked a fine line between advancing scientific progress and addressing public concerns. Late nights blurred into early mornings as she pored over data, searching for clues that might explain why the aliens had come and whether they'd return. Then one day a breakthrough occurred. While examining samples collected from Central Park, Emily's team discovered traces of what appeared to be organic material embedded within the residual energy signatures. At first glance, it seemed impossible. How could something biological survive exposure to forces capable of warping space and time? Yet further analysis revealed startling implications. The material bore similarities to human DNA, albeit altered, in ways no terrestrial organism could replicate naturally. This changes everything, Emily whispered, staring at the results displayed on her monitor. Her assistant, Mark, frowned. What does it mean? It means, Emily replied slowly, choosing her words carefully, that the aliens may have been here before, long before any recorded history. And these genetic markers suggest they've interacted with our species in ways we can't yet fully comprehend. The revelation sent shockwaves through the scientific community. If true, it implied that humanity's connection to the aliens ran deeper than anyone had imagined. Were humans somehow linked to them biologically, or even spiritually? Did this explain why the aliens had chosen Earth for their assessment? News of the discovery leaked to the media, sparking widespread speculation. Some hailed it as proof of divine intervention, claiming the aliens were humanity's creators or guardians. Others dismissed it as pseudoscience, arguing that correlation didn't necessarily imply causation. Meanwhile, conspiracy theorists seized upon the findings as evidence of a secret government cover-up involving ancient alien civilizations. Amidst the chaos, Sarah received an unexpected invitation. A delegation of world leaders requested her presence at an emergency summit held in Geneva. Though hesitant at first, she agreed, realizing the gravity of the situation required her unique perspective. The summit took place inside a heavily fortified conference center surrounded by armed guards and surveillance drones. Inside, representatives from nearly every nation gathered, their faces etched with worry and determination. When Sarah entered the room, whispers rippled through the crowd. Many recognized her immediately, rising to applaud her courage. "Thank you for joining us," said President Laura Hayes, gesturing for Sarah to take a seat beside her. "Your experience has given you insight none of us possess. We need your help now more than ever." Over the next several hours, delegates presented their findings and proposals. Military leaders advocated for increased defense spending, urging the development of advanced weaponry capable of repelling future alien incursions. Environmental activists pushed for aggressive climate action, arguing that protecting Earth was humanity's best chance of proving its worthiness. Religious figures called for spiritual renewal, emphasizing forgiveness and unity as paths toward redemption. When it was Sarah's turn to speak, she stood quietly, gathering her thoughts. Then, in a steady voice, she addressed the assembly. "We've spent centuries divided by borders, ideologies, and greed," she began. "But the aliens didn't care about those divisions. They judged us based on who we are as a species, not as individuals or nations. That's why we need to focus on what unites us, our shared humanity." Her words struck a chord, earning nods of approval from many attendees. By the end of the summit, a unanimous decision was reached. Humanity would dedicate itself to becoming better stewards of the planet and each other. Investments poured into clean energy projects, education initiatives, and humanitarian aid programs. Global treaties strengthened alliances, ensuring collaboration rather than competition in the face of uncertainty. Yet despite these efforts, doubts lingered. What if the aliens returned tomorrow? Would humanity's improvements be enough to satisfy them, or would they deem Earth unworthy after all? The answer came sooner than anyone expected. Late one night, 6 months after the rift had closed, astronomers detected unusual activity in deep space. Telescopes trained on a distant region of the galaxy captured images of massive ships moving rapidly toward Earth. Within hours, the fleet reappeared above major cities worldwide, casting long shadows over stunned populations. This time, however, the aliens wasted no time communicating. Their voices echoed simultaneously in every language, reverberating through minds and airwaves alike. "You have shown promise," they intoned. "But the test is not yet complete." Panic gripped the planet once again. People flooded streets seeking answers or escape. Governments scrambled to respond, unsure whether to prepare for war or diplomacy. Sarah watched the unfolding events from her apartment balcony, gripping the railing tightly. Beside her, Jake stared skyward, his expression unreadable. "What do you think they'll do?" he asked softly. Sarah hesitated, then smiled faintly. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together, just like last time." As the alien ships descended, their glowing forms illuminated the night sky. Humanity held, its breath waiting to see if its efforts had been enough, or if the final judgment was still to come.